All right, Tim, and we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Real About Entrepreneurship. I am back for another live with another guest to help us entrepreneurs who also work a 9 to 5 be able to move forward with our goals. And this week I'm going to be talking to Tim of Parcel Fair, and Tim is going to get us together on tax liens and tax deeds and how we utilize Parcel Fair to save us some time, and when we're researching tax liens and tax deeds. So, Tim, welcome to the Real About Entrepreneurship. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've been watching your channel recently, and I think it's a cool niche that you have trying to to think about sometimes. So I think it's great to get that together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am I think I was telling you the other day when we were talking, I bought some tax liens and I was doing some research on YouTube and I was watching the presentation. I have no idea how I got there. But I'm glad I stayed towards the end because that's when he was talking about Parcel Fair. And I was like, I think this is going to make my life so much easier. I'm actually going to be able to do what I need to do. So Parcel Fair has definitely done that. So will you share, I guess, who you are, and what Parcel Fair can do for someone that is looking to invest in tax liens and tax deeds?
Absolutely. I started. Well, I really started about 10 years ago looking at this, and got kind of scared off of tax investing because it was so hard to find information. And when I looked at some of the tax properties, I couldn't tell what I would be buying or really anything about it. So I put it on pause for about 4 or 5 years, which is one of my biggest regrets. And then uh, about 5 years ago, I picked it back up and just looked at a few counties in Alabama and started looking at the properties that were available.
Mhm.
And being a software developer, I started automating some of the research because you would take one property at a time. You would go look it up on the county websites and maybe 5 or 6 different searches, 5 or 6 different formats for how you search for the parcel. And it's very monotonous. And there was nothing worse than spending 10 minutes researching a property only to find out it was a ditch.
Right.
So I wanted a way to, yeah, skip past all that and get to the good stuff. I started automating one county at a time in Alabama. In about maybe 6 months, I had the whole state, and then next thing you know, I was on to other states, and that's where we are. Fast forward to today.
Wow, that's interesting because from what I understand, every state is different and then every county in that state could be different. Is that true?
Absolutely. And it cracks me up when you go to YouTube or a training site. A lot of times, the first thing the instructor will say is Alabama is a tax lien state, or Florida is a tax deed state. And I crack up every time because it's never that simple. But people want to say, oh, it's a tax deed state, so that's all I have to worry about. And the reality is that most states have multiple ways to buy, even layers to buy. You might buy tax liens in the early phases that become tax deeds later,
Mhm.
or maybe the tax liens go to foreclosure sales, or sometimes there's what's called a land bank that will pick up the leftover properties down the road.
Mhm.
And that's so every state you really do have to dig in. Otherwise, you're not really competing. You're not really investing if you only, you know, think of it in terms of a simple purchase. You have to really dig in. So yes.
Mhm. No, and that is very challenging in that in trying to learn it. We've got some people are in our chat, and we have one handsome Contreras. He says he loves this, and that tax lien investing has been a mystery for him for over 16 years, and that was kind of the same for me. Kind of like you were saying that you started this about 10 years ago. But for me, I've been interested in it, but it just seemed like it was so complicated. And so I didn't know what way to do it. And I had watched those videos that you're talking about where they were saying this state is this and this state is that. So so I guess knowing that, so what exactly is Parcel Fair?
Yeah. So if this is a good time, I'll go ahead and do a screen share, and I can. It's just easier to show you what Parcel Fair is.
Absolutely. So
So I'll go ahead
that's perfect.
and
Yes, and I'm going to be selfish on this live because I want to, I want to know more about it as well. So let's see here. I am going to, let's see. I am going to transition over. As you guys know, I have a software that I am still learning, and Tim is maxing me out today. I'm definitely going to learn more about this software as we go right now. So let me get you in there. All right. So let me change your screen out. All right, Tim, let me change you over here for a second. You guys, we want to share the screen, and so this is new for me, and we are going, we got it. All righty, so we are good to go now.
all right. So what you see right now is absolutely not Parcel Fair. What this is to explain Parcel Fair, especially if you've never seen a list of tax liens or a list of tax properties. What you're ultimately doing is you're going to go to a state or a county and you're going to be buying liens probably or deeds on these properties that are several years delinquent on their taxes. And 9 times out of 10, these are abandoned homes that are just left by the wayside. And you've probably driven by these in your life and seen a house that's falling in and wondered, why is nobody taking care of this? And it may be just because it's sitting there waiting for you to come buy the tax deed and fix the roof. So, but you have to start somewhere. And right now, this is what it looks like if you were to go to a county. This is an example of a county in Florida. I'm going to flip through a few samples here. Here's another one. Zoom in. You can kind of see a theme here. What we have is usually have a parcel number or some way of identifying the property. You can maybe tell who the owner is, but then when I might expect to see an address, I get some weird legal jargon description like this, and followed by an amount. And so usually what you key in on is the parcel number because you can go do your research on that, and the amount because that's the amount that's going to be due in taxes to purchase. Again, if it's a lien or a deed, it depends on the rules. I'll dive through this one in for variety. This is a Maryland county. If you see, these properties are not even in a table. These are just blobs of text.
Wow, yeah.
And so yeah. Here's another one. I think we're looking at Arizona maybe now. I can't even tell which county this is at a glance, but it looks like Arizona. I'll go through just a few more. This one is extremely bare bones. You just get essentially, remember I was telling you a property number and a balance of what taxes are owed. This is another Arizona county. These are, see, you can kind of just understand how frustrating this would be to do this by hand, right?
Very
And
much.
I still have a couple more to show you because have you ever seen a dot matrix printer with an old mainframe report? I mean, this is the kind of stuff of nightmares to try to figure out what in the world am I looking at. And then I'll take you now. The last one I'm going to show you is actually the first one I ever used, which is for Alabama. So yet again, it's very little information about a property. This is what scared me off 10 years ago. How in the world do I take this and know what am I buying? How much is it? Where is it? Is it burned down? Is it land? Is it a building? This is where Parcel Fair comes in. So what we've done is taken multiple states now and reverse engineered that research process and automated it for you because if there's anything that I think is most important, especially as a small time investor or as an entrepreneur, that would be automating and getting your tools to work for you. So let's you're interested in Alabama. Do you have a county you want to take a look at?
Tim, I can't tell them my county. I don't want everybody.
Maybe Jefferson.
I don't want everybody coming to my county, Tim. I can't. I can't tell them my
Well,
county.
I'll take the biggest. Then I'll give us an obvious one to work with. I'll
Okay.
take Jefferson Birmingham because it's the biggest one.
Okay.
Everybody sees that one first. Your county, we won't talk about. All right. So as you see, I've selected Alabama and then a county. I'm going to leave these filters alone for now. But ultimately, I might come back later and say, I just want to see buildings. I just want to see deeds or liens, or maybe I'm only interested in auctions. I could do that if I wanted to just look at auctions.
Mhm.
But let's just dump all these on the map and let's just see what's in Birmingham or Jefferson, Birmingham County. So you can probably see. All right, so you should see a satellite view of Birmingham.
Mhm.
One thing that Google Maps gives us a nice little feature is we can toggle over to this view and get a really good contrast view of these parcels laid out over like kind of a lighter color map. So when you see these blue shapes, those are tax deeds floating around in Birmingham, Alabama. Every once in a while, you'll see these little green ones. Those are tax certificates. In Jefferson, Birmingham, this is where it gets really tricky. Up until 2021, the properties that were sold at tax auctions were under a tax certificate, tax deed system. We call it the old system now because starting in 2022 in Jefferson, Birmingham, a new tax lien system replaced it, which means we have, as you can see on screen, about 12,000 properties in that one county alone that were existing in the old system that you can still buy from the state of Alabama, the Department of Revenue. But now, from 2022 and beyond in the future, we also have tax liens. So that's why I say when people try to classify a state or a county as tax lien or tax deed, it's not always that simple. So this confusion or this complexity, you could use it to your advantage right now because a lot of people are confused about what they're doing and scared to invest here. So frankly, if you can just learn the difference in the old system and the new system and how to buy from both when appropriate, you have a distinct advantage over someone who's not going to have that knowledge or distinction.
Okay.
So far, so good?
So far, so good. Now, let me ask you. So, I guess what is the difference in a tax lien and a tax certificate and a tax deed? Are we too far in for you to tell me that?
No, this is perfect. So we'll start with the old system in Birmingham. And remember, we'll talk about tax deeds and tax certificates. The instant we switch over to, let's say, Arkansas or Mississippi or Florida, a state like that, when we talk about tax deeds, it means something somewhat different. So I'm going to give you some very specific Alabama information about tax deeds, but what you're about to learn does not transfer cleanly to Florida or anywhere else. It's just, again, unique per state. There'll be
Okay.
some similarities, but the rules are very unique here. So, so when we're talking about the old system in Alabama, the counties switched over at different times. So some of the counties like Shelby or Mobile are several years into this process, but Jefferson, Birmingham, this is only their second year this year to have an auction in the tax lien system. So again, that old bank of tax deed properties that are hanging out there, if you buy a tax deed from the state of Alabama Department of Revenue, ultimately you're buying, it is a deed to the property, but it's not like a clear title or a quiet title where you can just flip it for market value or let's say put it on the MLS with the real estate agent. Before you do that, there are some rules like the redemption period. Anytime you're talking about a tax deed, no matter what state you're in, the redemption period is an important thing to understand. In Alabama, when you buy a tax deed, there's a 3-year redemption period from the time that you purchase the tax deed. Okay.
Okay.
What that means is you buy tomorrow, and essentially from that date, and 3 years out, the owner could come back and pay all the back taxes plus interest, and actually have to pay you for your preservation improvements that you have kept, copious receipts and before and after photos for. Um, and when they do that, essentially they would buy the property back. But as you see, the older a property gets in these inventories, the harder that gets because it's accruing taxes every year, year over year, interest and fees, plus your preservation improvements. That price tag starts to really snowball. And so the tax deed, the chances of someone coming back for it become smaller and smaller with every year that goes by. And again, like I told you, when you see these properties, if it's an abandoned house or abandoned vacant lot, you kind of get a feel for how much someone cares about that property already. If they don't care enough to keep the roof from falling in or the windows from being busted out, then they're probably not going to care enough to pull together $10,000 in 3 years and buy it back. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Uh-huh.
Okay. So a tax deed, when we talk about that, it's really talking about during those 3 years, you can actually, you're not stuck on the sidelines. You can actually make use of the property. What you need to do, and I recommend, especially when you're getting started, to get some help from an attorney. Like Stanley and Associates, it has been a huge help for us when people, especially when people get started and they're learning about this. They're great at teaching people, walking them through the steps to perform an ejectment and take possession of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do that, if you do it incorrectly, you could get in trouble. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be threatening or menacing or do anything that breaks the law. So it's a careful process where you take possession and you perform the ejectment process. And when you do that, you can actually move into the house. You could fix it up and put a renter in the house. You can make use of that property and preserve it during that redemption period, so it doesn't just crumble.
Now, is that redemption
Does
period?
that make sense so far in tax deeds?
Okay, so that's for specifically for a tax deed. You can do that.
Correct. That's specifically tax deeds.
Okay. And is that in every state? Does that how tax deeds work in every state, or is every state different on how a tax deed works?
So every state's going to be subtly different, and I'll give you a few examples. Arkansas, Florida, and Mississippi, when you buy a tax deed in any of those three states, some of the foreclosure process has already occurred, and they're going to have a much shorter redemption period. I think in Arkansas, off the top of my head, I think it's something like 10 days. So when you buy a tax deed in Arkansas, it is literally last call for the owner to redeem. At that point, the redemption period is tiny. So every state can vary drastically.
Okay. Okay. So so every state, it's the time, the difference in time is is the major part in every state. Okay. So we've got a question.
Yes, redemption period matters.
Okay. And so Roberto was asking, is the redemption period different in every state? So would that be a yes?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And so for a tax deed, you said in Arkansas, the tax deed is the 10 days is the last option for someone to redeem their property.
Correct. So Arkansas, that is how it works.
Okay, got it.
I see another question. Do you want me to take a swing at that?
Absolutely.
Yes. So tax deed in Alabama. Actually, this is actually a statement more than a question. But yes, there is a redemption period. But as you're fixing it up, and again, keeping your receipts, your before and after photos, and make sure you hang on to that in case it is relevant later in the case of a redemption. You want to be able to prove what you spent and what you did as a preservation improvement. We always joke, if you go put a swimming pool in the backyard, that's not a preservation improvement. That's just an improvement.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. So a preservation improvement would be like, would that be roof or foundation or, those types of things?
Correct. I like to think of it as anything that's preserving the value of the house, I think is something that you could argue is a preservation improvement. So whatever you find at the house, like I guess if you did find a house with a pool,
Hmm.
then maintenance on the pool could be considered preservation because you're keeping the value.
Got it. But if you put a pool in, that is not preserving the property.
I wouldn't try that.
Okay, got it.
I
Got
guess everything it could be subjective, but I would not expect to get paid for that.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And so we've got another question. Javar says, if repairs are made during the redemption period, are those expenses able to be recouped?
Absolutely. So it's again the before and after photos. I would always do that. I would keep every receipt and make sure that it's justifiable as preserving the value of the property.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we got far off of you showing us Parcel Fair and how it's going to help us. So we'll go back to that.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. So I mean, while we're talking about it, I should have probably picked some properties out in ahead of time. We're going to flip over to satellite view, and I'm just kind of surfing around some neighborhoods, and I think I'm a visual person, so for me, I'm looking at this area around West End or Inslee, and I want to visualize where these houses are in proximity to the interstate or a cemetery or a church, and I might zoom in like this and just kind of cruise down the street, and you may find something that interests you. We'll just say this house right here. So it's a 2013 tax deed, which means we're 10 years delinquent. I'm sorry, 11 years delinquent because it counts the year it was delinquent at the beginning. Now, when I clicked on that, it opened up this report, which, if you remember, I was telling you, you would take the parcel number and go to multiple county sources and research, you know, what are the property boundaries, where's the address, what are the taxes owed. We've pulled all that together for you, and automated that research so that it's in one place here for your convenience. So I'll go through some of this. Uh, uh, First off, I mean, we can tell it's 0.22 acres. That's actually calculated by us straight off of the GIS mapping data. So we don't always trust the county records. We do a lot of this ourselves.
Okay.
We do know that it's zoned residential and that it is a 1,400 square foot house that is a 3-1. So that's already in my head. I'm forming a picture of what's available here. I have a Google Street View on the right. We can kick into panorama view. This may be a little choppy on the share, but let me see if I can. We're talking about this house right here. So all in all, not a bad looking house. I definitely have seen worse.
Yes.
uh, Take a look around the neighborhood. We can see people are taking care of things pretty well. It's not too scary. So moving down the page, we see that it's a vacant property address. This is we actually check with the U.S. Postal Service to see if the mail carriers have designated it vacant or occupied. Mail carriers are out every day of the week except Sunday, and they're trying to deliver mail to these houses. And when the mail backs up and no one's checking it, they actually keep a list, and they call those vacant properties. So this is not an exact science the way we do this, but it is the best indicator we could come up with to give you a heads up that this property might be vacant. So I think that's pretty useful for research there. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. And we've got Airplane 247 says vacant land is easy to get. So thank you for that tip.
Yeah. The Well, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but let me just say that when you're talking about vacant land, a lot of our users will employ creative strategies to actually work a deal with the owner, and to, very often, I don't have a number for you, but very frequently they can work a deal with the owner and just buy directly the vacant land. So it's a lot of times there's a alternate path to getting that quicker.
Yes, I'm writing that down to come
But
back to
I'll
it because I think some of the ones that I bought, I'm thinking about handling that strategy as well. So I've written that down. I'll definitely come back to that question.
excellent. Okay. So moving down the page, I'm going to come back to purchase options in just a moment, but I wanted to call attention to I picked a good property here. This is we can see that the owner address on the left-hand column is different from the parcel's address. That may seem like a subtle detail, but it tells me that we know this house is vacant according to the Postal Service, and we can also see that the owner's mailing address is somewhere else. Um, I'm starting to piece that puzzle together and think this could be a second home for somebody. It could be a landlord tenant situation. It could be an inherited property that someone doesn't want to live in. So in my mind, I'm starting to think the owner is at least one step removed emotionally from this property. They don't live in it, and they might be willing to part with it or work a deal, maybe even a direct purchase from them. But it's starting to shape up as one of those properties that might be easier to acquire. Does it make sense so far?
No, that absolutely makes sense.
Okay. Okay. So I want to show you the right-hand side. There are research links. Every county you go to, you're going to see these links change a little bit. But for Jefferson, Birmingham, we'll just click on the summary link, and this will take you to the county website directly to like the sub page for this property that shows you the delinquent years on the right, where the taxes were not paid.
Hmm.
It tells us a lot of information about the addresses, the valuations of the property, and it saves you that searching step, right?
Hmm.
We can also go to a payoff worksheet and see all the taxes that are due, $12,738. That includes interest and dues and fees and all kinds of other things that were calculated. So we're learning a lot about this property, and I still haven't gone to a search manually on a county website. We're just clicking off of Parcel Fair. Uh, Tons of information here. We can go through sewer liens or probate searches, GIS maps, and then some more generic things. I could do click over to Realtor.com to see what comparables are on the. But, that's getting kind of ahead of ourselves now. So that's how you would do the research. But now, probably the most important thing that I've not told you yet is uh, you need to figure out how to buy this property.
Hmm.
And uh, as I mentioned at the very beginning, a lot of times there's more than one way. So this purchase options box is your friend because we have found at least two ways to buy this property right here. The first one is the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, which is basically it's a city program that Birmingham operates that allows you to come in and buy properties that are causing blight, that are causing maybe a nuisance to the city, and the city wants a responsible taxpayer that's going to rehab this property to essentially take the keys and do that. Now, the best part about that is I showed you a moment ago that there were 12,000 something dollars owed in taxes. The city will actually help you acquire this property for cheaper. And the Land Bank Authority rules change frequently, so I would always, in the future, if someone's watching this, please double check this. But at the last time that we worked with them, the minimum bid on a property was $5,000 plus a $500 application overhead administrative fee. So instead of buying this property for 12,000, you would be trying to buy it for 5,500.
Hmm.
And so in this case, that's kind of a no-brainer. Is instead of doing that, I would rather the city help me get this property. It's beneficial for the city. It's beneficial for me as an investor. So it could be an appealing program. And I won't lie, there is an application process that has several steps to it. It's not just a slam dunk. You have to convince the Land Bank Authority that you're a responsible person who has the funds to develop this property and repair it, and you're not going to just let it fall apart. So as long as you're upfront and honest about your intentions with the property, it helps to explain or show them that done this previously. If you've done a rehab before, it's great to share that with them. But whatever you can do to convince them and show them that I have the funds, I have the plans, and I have the vision for what to do with this property, then you might be able to get it from the Land Bank Authority for a great deal. Is that so far so good?
That is, and I do have a question with that. So is it so? And this is when I've gone there, I've seen multiple options of being able to purchase, and my thought was, which one of these do I choose? Is it? I don't. How do without clicking the button, do I know which that I'm going to get it for a lesser price than by purchasing it from the Birmingham Land Bank versus going directly through the Department of Revenue?
There is no guarantee. You could get denied or someone could buy it before you, but essentially when you click that button, we give you the jumping off point. We take you to the land bank website, to the property where you can start your application. I will say, since it is several steps, it's actually could take some time, so you might want to consider doing both, which means our second purchase option here is the Alabama Department of Revenue, where you would be buying this home for $12,000 and change, which is still a good deal when you look at, if some rehab work, the county valuation for this is around $54,000. That could be high or low depending on how much work you have to put into it. But the process for the Alabama Department of Revenue, it's a much quicker application process, but there's a caveat. They are extremely backlogged, so you're going to be getting in line. When you fill out this little form and hit submit, you have now applied for this property. But you're waiting in line. There could be 10, 20, 30 investors in front of you that are waiting for their opportunity to buy this property, and it takes the state a while to get to you.
Yes, and for me, I get those emails on Thursdays, and I just got one this past Thursday, and I think I applied for it in like July, and I kind of had forgotten about it. So it does take a while to get to get them to come to you.
That's right. And I think back to Airplane 247's comment, vacant land applications come back much quicker than anything with a structure, because anything with a structure, there's more appeal, there's more people waiting on it, so you'll have to wait longer.
Ah, got it. Okay, makes sense. Okay. Now, and so I don't know if you see this question. So whenever you purchase it, does that mean that that clears the taxes to zero? So they then clear the taxes to zero. That's I guess that's the question is once you.
So yes, if you, and we're talking about.
So you said
Sorry, I know I cut you off there. Sorry.
no. So you said it does clear it.
So in the land, if we're talking, I think we're talking about the land bank, right? So yes. So with the land bank, if you buy, what happens is they're working on getting you not a tax deed, but a quiet title action, and they basically take, it could be take up to a year even to get that quiet title action for you. But that quiet title, they're trying to get it for you, and ultimately, when you get that, there is no tax deed 3-year redemption period left. It is a quiet title action, and you have ownership of the property. If you buy from the Department of Revenue, you're in those rules that I was told you about a minute ago, where you're in the 3-year redemption period of a tax deed, and you don't have a quiet title action included in that price. And also worth noting, you're going to see properties like this very frequently, where they're in both the land bank and the Department of Revenue. And the reason is the land bank is cleared to represent properties for sale that are more than 3 years delinquent and are in the city limits of Birmingham. So that's kind of their jurisdiction, if you will. So anything inside of both of those criteria, you might see at the land bank. And they actually, you can think of it as superseding the Department of Revenue or cutting in line, however you want to think about it. They're essentially taking that property out of the Department of Revenue and selling it alternatively. So I guess you could say it's kind of like cutting in line.
Okay.
If you only knew about the Department of Revenue, then you might get frustrated if someone bought from the land bank.
No, and that makes sense. And now I have a better sense as to one, to apply through both, but a better understanding of how some of the other options. Now, what could potentially be another option besides the land bank, uh, other than the Department of Revenue?
Sure. Let's see. I could take a look at one thing are resellers. Um, and I'm kind of skipping over tax auctions right now because I don't have one in Birmingham to show you, but we can switch states or counties and show you a tax auction if you prefer. Would
Yeah.
you rather talk about that or people that are reselling tax deeds?
So if someone is reselling, they've already acquired the title, they've already purchased it, and it's now ready for someone to move forward with it. Is that what the reseller is doing, or is that somebody like a
Sometimes. So sometimes a reseller will sell a property that they have either a quit claim deed on or a quiet title action. Um, but sometimes they're selling properties that are very much in the early redemption period,
Mhm.
or they're selling properties that they might have a price quote to purchase and they've not purchased yet. We, like you said, you're getting price quotes back from July. One of the frustrating things for people is when they apply for, let's say 10 properties, you have no control over the order those properties and quotes are going to get to you. And let's say you only have funding to buy two of them.
Mhm.
So the first two come in, and since you don't know if you're going to get any more, you're going to buy those first two. And maybe a month later, a third one rolls in, and you say, "Oh my goodness, if I'd only known I was getting that price quote, I like it better. I'd like to either shop that price quote around and resell it, or resell one of the properties that I already purchased." So it's a very common scenario because people hate to let these price quotes go to waste if they've been waiting on them for so long.
Right. Right. No, that makes sense. Okay. Um, I get that. Because by the time I got them, I had, even though it was a relatively short period of time, I know Airplane 247 was saying sometimes it can take up to 3 years from when you apply with the Department of Revenue. I had already
Oof.
moved on. It's kind of similar to what you said. When I got the price quote, I was like, well, I mean, I really can't do anything with it now because I've done something else. So I get that.
So I did a let me see, let me go down to resellers only here. I thought I already pushed that button. I apologize. I'm just filtering to. We have 600 opportunities that we know about for resellers. So I'm just going to take the first one I see here,
Okay.
um,
And
and
so,
it's a vacant lot.
all
So
right.
let
And
me
so when you say
move
a
on.
reseller,
Sometimes those images.
that's
Go ahead.
someone that has already purchased or gotten a quote on the tax deed. So what exactly is a reseller? I'm not aware of what that is.
Sure. Let's just walk you through one. So this property in particular, it's actually very nice looking from the street there. Uh, you'll see this purple button. One of the resellers that we know is called Anderson Realty Group.
Hmm.
They buy properties. They do flips. They do rent to own, owner financing deals, and they also will sell properties. They'll sell based on a price quote that they don't intend to purchase as well. So in this case, since we see that it is available from the Department of Revenue and from Anderson Realty Group, we know that this is a price quote because otherwise I wouldn't be able to apply for a price quote if it had been already purchased.
Got
So
it.
I'm going to click on that link and it takes us straight to their website where you'll see they've actually taken more recent photos than what Google has. This is great. So um, you can see the house is boarded up. It's not quite as pretty as our Google Street View. It just means that some time has passed. I can click this button and it will let me fill out the order form to purchase this property. You see the price is $10,465. It expires tomorrow, so we'd have to get on the stick to buy this one. But that when you see an expiration date like tomorrow, that also means it's a price quote that they've chosen not to purchase.
And so
And then this
I'm assuming
order photos and videos button. Okay.
I'm assuming that there's something in their software because you only have like what 7 to 10 days to buy it when the state sends you the email. Is that accurate? Okay.
That's right. You have 10 days.
Okay.
So one of the value adds that they provide is they have a Facebook video here. I just noticed that, and it looks like you can order. Yeah, you can order additional photos and videos too. So they've done a lot of things to kind of help um, get you to understand what this property looks like. Uh, it's sort of beyond what Parcel Fair does. Is they'll go get recent photos or recent videos for you. So as a reseller, there's some value add there. Um,
Right.
I
That's a
am going to switch over and show you one other type of reseller, and this is called direct offers.
mhm.
And this is when you just have a random Parcel Fair user who has a price quote, and we can actually introduce you to that person. If you guys want to work out a deal, we just actually get out of the way and let you negotiate directly with them. Um, and so, for instance, if you wanted to buy this vacant land, wow, you've got three options here. We've talked about the land bank, we've talked about the Department of Revenue, and now you see this direct offer button too. So another user literally has this price quote in hand, and you can follow those steps and get an introduction to them and try to negotiate if you want to buy directly from them and have them exercise that purchase option for you.
So is there something in Parcel Fair that say if I got a quote that that I want to I guess put out there as a direct offer, is there something in Parcel Fair that allows me to do that?
Yes, I opened up the tools menu at the top. There's a price notice organizer, is what it's called. The state calls them price notices.
Mhm.
Um, I've got a bunch of example ones here just from working through this. But ultimately, what you're doing here is we have a video that you can watch that will, I better not play that. It will walk you through the process of how to upload, and you can take that PDF, put it in the system, and for 10 days, it is essentially advertised for free on Parcel Fair to our users, and we'll introduce you to somebody so you can do that. I think someone in the questions just asked that. So that is how you would list your properties, is by uploading the PDF. And there's a video there that will explain how to do that.
Wow, that is really cool.
So where do you want to go next?
Alrighty. And so
You want to
once
see a tax auction in another state?
yes, let's do a tax auction in another
Oops,
state.
sorry.
So and we're talking about states. What states
Okay.
does Parcel Fair currently operate or currently are we, that you can currently utilize Parcel Fair in?
Sure. So here are the main ones on screen right now. We have Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, and Mississippi. We offer very full experiences. That means auctions. It means over-the-counter deeds. Sometimes foreclosure sales. Just a very well-rounded experience on those 5 states. Um, Indiana is, frankly, the next, probably the largest one on our site. We have, I think we're hosting like 100 auctions for Indiana right now, from foreclosure sales to certificate sales, and then we track their spring and fall auctions. So Indiana really is one of those states that we have a full experience on.
Mhm.
We're finishing up Maryland right now. It's been an interesting state to work in, and we're kind of rounding off Tennessee as well. So those are becoming more mature, I think you would say. Um, and then we host a few auctions in Oklahoma, New Mexico. We're trying to grow that as well. So you can kind of see the full states, and then a few that are sort of on the vine, still ripening, I guess you'd say.
Got it. Okay. Now you know I got to be selfish and ask you when is
So
Texas going to be on there?
well, that is a long story that I will not bore you with the full details, but Uh, Texas has been problematic for several reasons. There are 268 counties or something like that in Texas, but the real problem is their auctions are hosted through local attorneys, not through county offices. And those local attorneys are not always eager to share their information about what's in the auction or let us host it on a website. I know other websites do that, but they don't have permission to do it. So we're trying to tread carefully there to make sure that it's uh, not going to get us in hot water.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, I'll keep my eye out for Texas. Now, obviously, because I'm Georgia. I mean, Alabama is one. Is Georgia one as well, or no?
So Georgia is on our list of states to go after. What we found when we did our first research there was there are a lot of counties in Georgia. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's over 100 though, and they're one of the most diverse states as far as how a county handles their auctions. They post them at random places, including newspapers, uh, and their data is actually very difficult to get into our system. So we made the decision a few weeks ago to back burner Georgia for a few months while we really focus on some states that we are almost ready with. Like I said, Maryland and Tennessee are getting to that maturity level, and we're about to try to debut Colorado, New Jersey, South Carolina, and Louisiana. Um, when we estimated the effort to get Georgia on the site, uh, it would probably Georgia by itself would probably be harder than those four states combined,
Oh wow.
if you can believe that. It's just a different setup there.
Got it. Okay. No, that well, yeah, that totally makes sense. Now, Roberto has a question in regards to once you get a price quote on a property, do you have enough time to do a title search to make sure there are no additional liens? Is that
Yes, so um, there's a service that I'm trying to think of the name of right now, and I should have written this down before the call. But some of our users have recommended a service to me that does, I think, for like $80 a title search.
mhm.
Oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed I can't remember this.
Well, you can tell it to
uh, but
me and
it's
sure to go back and put it in there if you come up with it later so we can get it to them because I definitely be interested in that because I don't know if this falls in line with it but I know one that I bought I knew that there was a foreclosure on the home and so I was able to find out who the bank that foreclosed but that bank has since been bought by another bank and the attorney that was working on it, I've called them and they was like, we haven't had that in years. So I was gonna take the approach of trying to buy it directly from the seller, that kind of a thing. So would that fall in line with that whole getting an attorney to do the lien, the additional liens? Would that be in that realm or no?
Yeah, and I guess I should back up. I mean, like our the attorneys can do a title opinion. Some of them do a full title search, and I was just trying to remember that one automated service that's cheap and quick. But yes, that would fall under trying to make sure that if you buy this, you're not going to run into major title issues. And I would say your title search, I would make sure you do all the other due diligence you're going to do first,
Mm-hmm.
because that if it's an $80 search or something like that, that's probably the most expensive thing you're going to do short of buying the property. So make sure if you're looking at photos, you put eyes on the property before that because you might find a tree on the house or that it's burned down, and then you can just not bother doing a title search. You can just pass on the property altogether. So do that after you've done the basic due diligence first.
Got it. And is that and just so I'm clear, is that specific to tax deeds? Is that not so much the case with a tax lien?
Yeah. For instance, if you're talking about like a tax lien in Florida, you don't really care about the title as much, because you're buying an 18% lien on the property, but that lien is not foreclosable in that state. In some states, so that's the case. You just buy liens for interest. End of story. Um, so in that case, all you care about is that the property has enough appeal that someone's going to come back and pay your interest. So in tax deeds, you definitely care a lot more because you may end up with the property.
Got it. Okay. 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 And is that the case in Alabama? A selfish question. Is that the case in Alabama? If I buy a tax lien, am I able
Mhm.
to, I guess, foreclose on that? Or is it just more the interest?
Yes. So in Alabama, if you get 3 years of tax liens, you can foreclose on it.
Can foreclose on it. Now, and I don't know if this is a question that you can answer. How does that play if someone has a mortgage on that home? What position do you take as the person that has paid the taxes for the last 3 years? How does that work?
So it's a good question. I would point out that um, almost every property I've seen in the system does not have a mortgage involved because a bank is typically going to make sure the taxes are paid on a house. The most common situation when property goes tax delinquent is when there's no bank involved. They're not collecting escrow on a payment to put into taxes. And if you think about it too, if an owner stops paying the bank, they're just going to foreclose on it anyways, probably long before you're able to get it through the tax deed. They're not going to wait all those years and let it go that far.
That was great. I didn't even think about that part. That was good. Okay.
But yeah, that's
That was really good.
hmm. What I'm going to do is we were talking about auctions a moment ago, so I'm going to click on this. This auction calendar is a brand new feature that we've done on the website. The idea here was trying to get a single place where you could visualize all these auctions, and so we jumped right into Florida to start with here. There's a lot of complete auctions, but if you keep scrolling down, you start to see these with the green buttons on them, and the further you go, we're tracking auctions. Goodness, all the way out through May. No, we have auctions in June now, all the way for Florida. So
Oh,
you can see that there's a ton of these deed auctions in Florida to choose from.
wow.
Uh, I'll show you. Indiana looks really good right now too. These are mostly foreclosure auctions, but there are also certificate auctions in the mix.
Okay.
So I'll just we have let's see, going through February. Sorry, I'm scrolling quite fast here. So it looks like Indiana goes through about April or May right now. So that's how far out we're able to project there. Uh, Arizona is in season right now. We actually have 3 more auctions coming in today. Another list gets released in 3 days. But Arizona is only 15 counties. You could actually look at all 15 counties once they're all released. And we'll cut back to Alabama now, since we talked about it. Alabama's auction season is April through early June. So a lot of these lists are not released yet, but we do have a few kind of preview lists here. We'll be getting Shelby County soon. We have St. Clair. It's a good county. So there's a few things you can do to prepare for Alabama auction season right now. It's kind of on the one hand, it's nice to have that early preview, but
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, between now and April, a lot of these properties will have their taxes paid and just fall off the list. So if you like a property in the auction, you can add it to your favorites list on our website or put it into some kind of shopping list that you want to keep, and you'll just notice some of them become unavailable as they pay their taxes. They just sort of fall out of there.
Okay. And so that's one of the things that I noticed is when I was doing my research, uh, you know, can you start too soon? And a lot of those, kind of fall off, or like, I mean, that kind of thing.
Uh, yeah, I would say you can start too soon. I mean, if you're shopping in a county that you're not familiar with, then definitely, because I think, if it's the county I live in or something I'm very familiar with, um, I might know certain areas and certain properties that I can, drive to in a few minutes and scout them out. And honestly, if I'm looking at an auction in a local county like that, I might um, find a distressed situation and look at the property and say, you know what, whether this goes to auction or not, I might make an offer to the owner regardless.
Hmm.
And I might not wait for the auction for 2 months. I might just contact the owner in advance and say, hey, uh, I saw that your uh, uh, house is being advertised for taxes. If I can help you out, maybe we can work a deal that's good for both of us, and try to buy the property if you no longer have interest in it.
Okay.
And that can be a delicate discussion, so I oversimplified that, but it's something where it's a strategy you could employ.
Makes sense. Okay. Got it.
So I guess let's take a look at one of these. Colbert County. We'll take a look at that. Hopefully that's not your county.
I'm not telling you my county. My counties. I
So
I did call them to make sure that I knew I knew what I was doing because, like I said, I bought some for the first time in 2022, and then I thought that I was supposed to pay the taxes. I really didn't know the process, and so I called them, and they told me what the process would be, and so yeah.
it happens. It happens for sure. So Colbert County is in the top northwest corner of the state, kind of headed towards Memphis. You can see it's on the Tennessee River, and Muscle Shoals is there, so you have some kind of city-looking properties, as well as on the outskirts, maybe some things that are more like acreage you can look at. So that's, beautiful property like this that's just sitting there. That's a 20-acre plot of property. And let's take a look because I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're thinking about tax lien auctions in Alabama.
Okay.
First of all, we're telling you there's one tax lien available. If there are multiple years that are published, we can tell you that there's two or three. And if there's three liens in Alabama, you might want to buy all three so you could foreclose. But this one tax lien is going to be for sale on April 18th for $225.32. And importantly, you see this in the purchase options. You don't see land banks, you don't see the Department of Revenue or any of that, but instead you'll see that there's a upcoming auction button. And when we click on that button, some very useful information is included. We want to tell you the auction is April 18th. It's at 10 a.m. The auction in this case is online at govies.com. We have the parcel number as it's listed with them. The tax is due according to that sheet. And then there's contact information for Colbert County. There's also a registration link for the tax sale, and then also an informational page that shows you more about that particular auction. So we don't leave you hanging. We want to take you right to the doorstep of how you would buy this property and get you as close as we can after you've done your homework on it. So that's the experience we try to go for when the property is going to an auction.
Okay. And so when you go to an auction, I think so. Does the auction? Someone has a question. Does the auction include deed and lien properties?
So the last I checked in Alabama, 39 counties have moved to the tax lien system, so they would all host their auctions for tax liens. The notable counties would be Jefferson, Birmingham, Jefferson, Bessemer, Mobile, Shelby. Those are kind of the big name counties. Coleman and Baldwin, Calhoun, and Etowah as well. So a lot of those bigger counties. Some of the counties that are still in the old system, they're smaller counties for the most part, except Montgomery is still in the old system. So at Montgomery, you're buying that. It's an in-person auction, and you're buying a tax certificate that becomes a tax deed. So it's the old system, not the new tax lien system. But
Okay.
so yeah, so the answer is for 39 plus counties, you're buying tax liens if you go to the auctions now.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So so when you said you're at the tax lien, if you're buying, you're looking to see how many years are there, and if you see all three, then you would want to buy all three so that you could foreclose.
That's right. Uh, a lot of these counties, when they have leftover liens that don't sell, they have a choice to make. Uh, on the one hand, they can just hold on to the tax lien until the next year's tax sale.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's delinquent that year, then suddenly there are two liens for sale on that property, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
A few counties will actually sell you leftover tax liens directly from the county. You can do that in Mobile, Talladega, Shelby, Walker, several other counties, and we have those on the website. So in those cases, you can buy those leftover tax liens year round directly from the county. But in a lot of cases, you're going to a county auction and you might see an accrual of multiple years of liens where it's now 2 years or 3 years delinquent. And in those cases, you can buy it multiple years and press that foreclosure quicker if that's your strategy.
Got
Does
it.
that make
Okay.
sense?
I think that makes sense. So if a property, let's say I have someone that they know that the property, no one, I guess they haven't paid the taxes on it, but nobody has purchased the property or purchased the
Mm-hmm.
tax lien. So how long does it
Mm-hmm.
stay before, I guess it goes to, I guess goes to the state versus it being with the county? Is that how that goes? So someone just doesn't pay the taxes, nobody's bought it, and they're like, well, nobody's bought it, so I'll just,
Mm-hmm.
keep kind of doing it that way.
So the new tax lien system, the leftover tax liens never go to the state. They stay with the counties in perpetuity until the county sells it or settles it somehow. Only the old tax certificates and tax deeds go to the state.
Ah, okay, got it. Old tax certificate. Okay, got it. Okay, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, you say it makes sense. It's still very complicated when you have to keep it all straight in your head.
No, no, yeah, it clears up what it clears up. So that and that's specifically in Alabama. So the old tax liens go to tax deeds, and that's what goes to the state. So what happens when all of those are pretty much cleared up? How does that work?
So if the state sells all of the tax deeds, is that what you mean?
Right. Well, you said that a tax lien in the old system, a tax lien goes into a tax deed. That's how they're getting in there, right?
Right, and I'm splitting hairs here, but they will call it a they call it a tax lien certificate. So we kind of shorten that to call it tax certificates in the
Oh,
old system to be because it gets really confusing. So in the old system, a lot of us call it tax certificates to tax deeds,
got it.
and
Okay.
then the new system we just call it the tax lien system
Got
because it's sort of its own animal. Um, yeah, sorry, it's just it gets really confusing
Okay,
if
no,
we
no, no, that makes sense. Okay,
mix it up.
okay, no, no, that makes sense. Okay, and if I sidetracked you from what you were going to show us, go ahead and show us.
No, that's great. It's I mean, really, I was just showing you if I was looking at a county in an upcoming tax sale, that's how I would do it.
Okay.
Uh, and I mentioned earlier, you might want to save this property for later. You could click this Add Favorite button, and now it's tracked in a list of favorites that I can get to up here. Um, a lot of people like to do that or add it to a list. You could do that here. Um, and those lists and favorites are things that you can keep up with over time to kind of organize your research so you don't lose a property or backtrack and research the same property multiple times if you already have it in your list.
Got it. Okay, that makes I like that. So, are there other features of Parcel Fair that you think we should point out to the viewers? Because, like I said, I when I came across Parcel Fair, it made it. I felt like I could do it. I felt like okay, I finally got my arms around how to at least research the property to what I would say get in the game. And I started kind of in areas that I was familiar with. So it was much easier for me to figure out if this was something that I wanted to move forward with. Now, while the other part that I think, I don't know if this has always been, but these were online tax sales. That also made it less intimidating for me, is because I was in my office, um, being able to do this. Whereas before I would have had to attend the sale in person. And that was also the issue that I had before, is I was never available to attend those tax sales in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll show you one. There's a lot of bells and whistles in here that I could cover, but I think one of the most valuable ones that I've not shown you yet is these search filters. If I am looking at Alabama, Colbert County, and if I want to really filter in on one strategy, okay, let's say that if I'm vacant land guy and I want to do minimum 10 acres, I can go run that search and take those 1,700 properties down to 78. That would have taken me days of work if I just went list down, row by row, maybe weeks. And you saw that was about a second. Now I can go building and improvements now. I only want land that has a building on it. Let's say I want anything $20,000 or more. And I guess I could get really specific and go for vacant only, but we'll just do, I don't know what's in Colbert County, so I'm just going to do that. So I cut the list in half to 907 properties.
Mhm.
So this is the real time saver for me, is when you see that list of properties for sale, all these questions come to my head of like, I wonder how many houses there are. I wonder what the values are. I wonder if there's big parcels of land. And you can answer those questions just in a split second here. And that, I think, is probably the most powerful piece of saving time here.
Yeah, that was definitely it. When I started playing with the filters, and I realized what blue meant, what green meant. I was, and, I really got excited about it, because I was able to sift through that much faster. Like I think I was telling you, is I got I guess a spreadsheet from a county, but I could not make out what was what, and and so it really just kind of went by the wayside. Now the other thing is, I think I may have asked you this, and again, this is all about me being selfish. Is there a way for me to figure out mobile homes, specifically mobile homes on land,
uh,
with this?
yeah, it gets really tricky when you talk about mobile homes, because what I'm trying to do is use the data to help you out.
Hmm.
But if you were to get into splitting hair specifics about whether a mobile home is part of the value of a property or not,
Hmm.
you actually have to if it's actually attached to a foundation or not. If it's still a mobile home, then it's considered a vehicle,
Hmm.
and so you would be buying the land and not the mobile home.
Right.
But if it's attached to the property in a way that is foundational, then and unfortunately, I don't have a way to do that with computers to check the foundation. So you're somewhat on your own, other than showing you photos that you can see online. But beyond that, you'll need to do some validation yourself.
Got it. Yeah, because I thought that there were some codings, and it's so sporadic whether or not the counties will code the homes that way. So I had to ask. I had to shoot my shot and find out for that. So no, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and you're correct. The counties do have codes, and in all the states we're in, they're unfortunately not very consistent. So it's possible we could get at least the classification code, like you said, in there. I guess it still doesn't guarantee that you still would want to go see the house yourself and make sure, but it could narrow it down for you. So that is an idea.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. So is there I'm looking through the questions here. Someone did ask, I want to go back through, I made some notes here. So Roberto wanted to know, we were talking about the states that Parcel Fair was in. He said, how many states do you plan on having on Parcel Fair in the long term? So I guess, is the goal to
I want
get,
them all. I want every state, but uh, so I would say every investor-friendly state we would like like to get on the website. There are some states that are not, and frankly, we have a very small team of researchers. It's my wife and some freelancers that really do that work. And every once in a while, they'll hit up on a state where it's like, you know what, this is just not very investor friendly or worth our time. I think Massachusetts comes to mind as one of the states where they kind of bounced off of it and moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Liens or tax deeds, and it's something. Oh, Kentucky's a good example too. The last I checked, Kentucky sells these tax liens in kind of a grab bag fashion for a very large investment.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my users wouldn't really want to compete in that because they wouldn't go buy $1 million of random tax deeds and go sort through the bucket and see what they got. That's a very niche, large investment type of state. So there are some states like that we probably would never do,
Mm-hmm.
if I had to guess.
That makes sense. And having that detail as someone who's is new in this and only looking at my particular state or some other ones, that's actually great information to know. I didn't really think about it from that standpoint. And going back to something we talked about earlier in recouping the fees, Winston is asking, what about if you have a management firm taking care of the property? Would you get those fees back?
Good question. I know that people have recovered some legal costs. They've recovered homeowners insurance on the property, and I think if your property management fee, if there were, you could probably get the repairs. If I'm guessing here, I think you could get the repairs because you could prove that it was preservation.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just their percentage and overhead, like if I don't think you could probably get that. Again, speculating here.
Got it. Totally makes sense because we're going to stick to Parcel Fair. So I completely get that. So another question that Winston has, and I don't know if this was specific to, we were talking about Alabama when we were talking about this, so I don't know how this plays in other states. But is there a site does the site show you which counties are doing the new system, tax certificate, and which are doing tax liens or others?
So we show you that, just not in one place, unfortunately. That's a good idea, though. If you were researching a property, you would see on our site that it would show. Well, I just had it on the screen here. At this auction, we say that it is a tax lien auction, and we show you that one lien is available and that the sale is through govies.com. So once you're in the county seeing it, you can see that. But I could see how that would be useful to see all the counties for the whole state and if they're tax lien or not. And that's might be an idea for what I could put on our auction calendar right now. I just say Colbert 2023 auction, Walker, Calhoun. That might be a good addition is for us to say tax lien auction or tax certificate auction. That's thank you for that idea because that would clarify some things for people.
I like it. Thanks, Winston. We appreciate that. we absolutely appreciate that. And so as we're wrapping up, I want to make sure that if there's anything else that we haven't touched on in regards to Parcel Fair, because like I said, it allowed me to dive into tax lien investing and buying some tax deed properties that before I found to be daunting. So is there anything else about Parcel Fair that you would want to share with those watching now and those who will be watching in the future?
Yeah. So first of all, I saw Winston's other question, which is how much is Parcel Fair? So I'll do that. Um, it's $45 per month or $400 per year. I did just put a promo code on screen. It's specifically for your channel. So I called it the Real 23 for 2023. And it's $15 off your total purchase, whether you choose annual or monthly. You get a $15 one time. It's my way of saying thank you for having us on here today. But I also we put a lot of time and effort into our YouTube channel. We try to keep it current with new opportunities, new markets, new features on the site. So I listed our YouTube channel here as well. And of course, parcelfair.com is how you get to our site. There's a 7-day free trial. You've got the promo code. And if you contact us on the contact form on the site, I personally answer everything that comes through there. So you get to deal directly with one of us here and our small team. But it's a, again, small company, and we're doing a lot of things through automating and technology, and it's exciting stuff. So we'd love to talk shop with you and talk about your investing if you want to reach out to us.
Right, absolutely. So the one thing, I was talking to Tim, and one of the things that, oh, before I move on to that code, how long is the real 23? How long is that good for?
We'll leave it for the whole year. They expired
Got it.
2023 is
Okay,
over.
perfect. I love that. So, one of the things that obviously, what my channel and what we talk about is, I love the fact that you took action on your idea. You said you should have done it 10 years ago, but you still decided to take action. We talked about it. Both of us work 9 to 5s. So, but what made you take action on your idea? Because when I'm talking to people, I find that it's a time management situation, or it's basically it boils down to time management for a lot of people. Family, they're busy and they don't know how to figure it out, that kind of thing. So, what made you take action on moving forward with Parcel Fair?
I would say good friends. When I started doing this, it was really just a tool for us to see what we can invest in. And there are several friends in particular that were extremely encouraged that it'll never work or it's just a waste of time. But there were just some really good friends along the way that encouraged us. And I think the people you surround yourself with are probably what makes the difference as an entrepreneur. If you have friends that will talk ideas with you and talk through problems, and that's the kind of conversation that really helps you out, and the kind of people that really help you out as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that is one of the things that I can totally relate to. That is making sure that you have a group around you that you can flush the ideas out and you can talk through things, because that has definitely been one of the things that has been beneficial to me. So that is definitely a good answer. Are there any tips? I guess that would kind of be the tips. Do you have any tip for an entrepreneur, someone who's an entrepreneur who also works a 9 to 5, or do you have any tips on time management? Like, how do you get these things done? And you have a family, you're married. Like, how does that work for you?
Well, so I do a full time job, and I only am able to work on this in spare time. So um, we have to, if we're, anytime my wife and I take on something, whether it's a new county, a new market, a new feature, I won't touch it if we can't automate it. Just plain and simple. If it can't be either automated through a tool, or maybe a virtual assistant that you pay overseas to do some of the legwork, or through our freelance researchers, if we can't get it automated that way, then we don't take it on. That's Earlier I mentioned skipping over Georgia for now. I'd love to come back to Georgia later. It's just not a good fit for us now. It would be too much manual work that we would take on until we can come back and really give it the kind of attention and the kind of treatment we would want to give it.
Okay, and that makes total sense. I like that. So, sounds like you've got a great partnership with your wife. I was watching something the other day, and so I would say that you married well. You chose a great partnership, because that is a big part in being able to make these things work. So that is really good.
Exactly right. It was funny. Yeah, she's wonderful and been one of our biggest fans and promoters from the beginning.
Absolutely. So as we're wrapping up, I see a couple. So Jim Ellis says, "Hi Tim, I've had Parcel Fair for 5 days and I love the program." So we love that. Let's see. Lanisha,
Thank you, Jim.
yeah, Lanisha Daniel, she wants to know, in Alabama, can you clarify how long is the redemption period for liens or deeds?
Absolutely. So we left off on the new tax lien system, so I'll start there. The new tax liens, if you buy, this year at an auction, it is 3 years of tax liens you have to purchase before you can foreclose, and that foreclosure process even longer into that third year, I guess you'd say. Whereas tax deeds, if you buy a tax deed that is already matured into a tax deed from the state, it is 3 years from the time that you purchase, and actually, the clock starts ticking, I believe, to be really clear, when you take in possession. It's important that you follow those steps. And I mentioned earlier, our attorney, Stanley and Associates, Greg Stanley. I highly recommend you use them, or find someone who knows how to walk you through that, to get it right the first time. And yeah, it's important that you do that correctly.
Okay, so yeah, that was one of my first notes. I did write down Stanley and Associates. I definitely will be reaching out to them, as I think I have a need for that. I actually bought a property for someone, and I've been working for quite a while to quiet the title. I haven't been in a rush to quiet the title, but they purchased it from a tax sale,
Mhm.
and I purchased it from them, and I'm in the process of quieting the title. And quieting the title is expensive, so I'm waiting for I'm waiting for that. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So that's it's so I think those are all the questions that we have. Again, Tim, I appreciate you coming on. And for me, this was just about I reached out, and I'm very glad you said yes. I went back and forth for a minute and said, should I reach out? I don't know, but I did, and I'm glad I did, because I've learned a lot more about Parcel Fair. I love the fact that you took action on your idea. And this just goes to show that, if you put the work in, it's not going to be easy, but if you put the work in, then it definitely pays off. So I know you gave it to us before. Can you tell us how the website and the YouTube channel for how they would be able to find Parcel Fair and wanted to do the trial and eventually sign up?
So when you're on the website, if you just go to parcelfair.com, there's a big button in the top right, one for buy now and one for free trial. Um, it'll walk you this like a two-step process. You have to create an account, and then if you either choose to trial or to pay. The YouTube channel, it's just if you search for Parcel Fair or follow the link we had earlier in the video. We have maybe 30, 35 videos out there, and just take your pick, a state that you want to watch. Um, and we're trying to put out current videos, but yeah, and of course, if there's any questions at all, we have a contact form on the website. Please reach out to us, and we'll always respond to you.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that wraps up everything in regards to this way of utilizing Parcel Fair to research tax liens and tax deeds. Again, I was selfish in the questions that I wanted to know, because I have been using Parcel Fair for, I guess, a little right at a year. And I do plan to purchase some more properties in this upcoming tax season. And guys, I appreciate you guys coming for another live for the Real About Entrepreneurship. I look forward to bringing you some more guests so that we can build our businesses together while we work this 9 to 5, with the goal of not having to do that. But until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Be sure to put your if you have additional questions when you're watching the replay. I do look at the comments. Those are very helpful. So if you have, questions in the future, feel free to put them in the comments. And until next time, peace.